So, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is on its way, and there's one thing that everybody's clamoring for. No, it's not the story. No, it's not the graphics. No, it's not the gameplay. It's the single most important aspect to any piece of superhero media. Without them, the genre is basically pointless. I'm talking about the suits, baby! Let's go! This video is brought to you by Squarespace. I'm hands-free now. I got a little mic stand. You know what that means? The first game, as well as the Miles Morales spinoff, both had a fantastic selection of suits to choose from. Not only were there iconic movie suits that looked gorgeous, comic costumes that are ripped right out of the page, but also original designs and fresh takes on old concepts that we've never seen before. And so with the sequel, I wouldn't want to start from scratch and basically throw out all those fantastic models. Realistically, this second game will be in a similar engine as the first, and so there's a definite possibility we'll see the return of most, if not all, of the previous suits, as well as a plethora of new ones. I made a video a little while back about the idea of a suit builder, which is definitely something that I would really like to see, but it's also a pretty complicated system that probably might not be ready for the second game just yet. And so instead, here are some of the suits that I want to see in Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Also, a lot of these suits are already mods for the first game on PC, because Spider-Man fans are wild. I really want to see more suits from the comics, specifically based on how different artists draw the web slinger and the iconic imagery that's attached to their art. For example, I would love to see a suit that's based on the original Steve Ditko design, including the web wings, the squinty eyes, the red and black, and maybe even the blue back symbol. The same goes for Todd McFarlane's design with the giant eyes. The Ultimate Spider-Man design by Mark Bagley is another suit that I would really love to see featured. The Ultimate Spider-Man series was the first Spider-Man comic for a lot of people, and it'd be great to see it get represented. Also, I could pretend like it's a remastered version of Ultimate Spider-Man. I'd also like to see a suit that's inspired by Alex Ross's art. Ross is known for his hyper-realistic styles, using real-life photography as a reference, and I really love the way he does Spider-Man, namely with the shape of the eyes and the reflective mirror-like lenses and how spandex everything is. A kind of weird one that I would like to see is Jack Kirby's original design for Spider-Man. The story goes that when Stan was first writing for the character, he had initially had his longtime partner and comic legend Jack Kirby to design the web slinger, but Kirby's design was so different from what Stan had wanted, being more space-aged and mass vigilante, that he instead went with Steve Ditko, who gave us the iconic look. The design is super out there and super weird with web guns instead of web shooters, but I think it'd be a super fun homage to the absolute legend of a man that Kirby was. One thing I do really need to see though, if they adapt any suits based on comic looks, is I think that Insomniac should credit the artists who made the designs of the game. Maybe even the specific issues too, just like how the Guardians of the Galaxy game did it. And speaking of artists, if you're an artist that's looking to make an online portfolio, you could use today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. With their different templates and designs to choose from, Squarespace is the perfect place for artists to start building their business and portfolio without any coding or web design knowledge required. Squarespace makes it easy for artists and creators to monetize their content and expertise in a way that fits their brand. With member areas, you can unlock a new revenue stream for your business and free up time in your schedule by selling access to gated content like video, online courses, and newsletters. Use insights to grow your business, learn where your site visits and sales are coming from, and analyze which channels are most effective. Improve your website and build a marketing strategy based on your top keywords and your most popular products and content. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/TroyBoy17 to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Speaking of Alex Ross, he actually designed a concept version of the Spidey suit for the 2002 Sam Raimi movie. Raimi ended up going with something that was a little bit more akin to the classic look, and Ross's design ended up being the inspiration for Superior Spider-Man, but the Ross design is unique enough that I'd like to see it be its own suit. And speaking of the Raimi suit, after many requests and pleading and... oh, geez, come on, you guys, really? Insomniac added the iconic suit from the Sam Raimi trilogy into their game. The suit is great and I love it, it's beautiful, but it was based off of the design from Spider-Man 2 and 3, which is a good design by all means. The first suit had a similar design to the second and third movie, but there are small things like the texture of the webbing and the symbols that I personally prefer just a little bit more. Something about that suit, it's just, it speaks something to me, you know? And so I would love to see that suit in addition to the already fantastic webbed suit. And if we're talking about the first Sam Raimi movie, you know I need this guy.
The Amazing Spider-Man!
See, they'd probably just call him the Human Spider, but if they were smart, they'd call him the homophobe. And while we're talking about movie suits, you know I had to mention the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. I get why they weren't able to add this to the first game. It seems like they had the choice between the TASM 1 and the TASM 2 suit, and the first suit is a lot more unique in design compared to the second. But I personally have always loved the TASM 2 suit, the eye shape, the webbing, the patterns. It's personally my second favorite costume, and so much of the swinging in the games is based on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 swinging. I feel like it's almost a given that we're going to see this one. But notice how I said it's my second favorite suit. That's because in December of 2021, at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, we were introduced to this bad bad boy in all of its shiny and homemade glory. Oh my god, I love this fucking thing. I love this suit so much. Kevin Feige, if you change the suit in any meaningful way, like more than just like a couple little things, you will never hear the end of it from me. I mark my words, Kevin. We've been talking a lot about the movies, and that's all well and good, but Spider-Man also has so many appearances in television as well. It would be really fun if we get to see the design from the 1977 Nicholas Hammond show, or even the suit from his appearances on the Electric show. And you know damn well I need to play as the Super Sentai Spider-Man, the emissary of death himself. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of the suits that are like just spandex. I don't like the texture of a lot of these suits anymore, and I like the simple charm. With the Miles Morales game, they showed that they're willing to make suits based off the animated appearances, and that opens up the door to a whole slew of different designs. The classic 60s animated suit is basically an essential at this point. The 90s animated series is also hugely iconic, and was personally my first introduction to the character as a kid. The MTV animated series with Neil Patrick Harris has a really unique design and a really unique art style that I think would translate to the game world really well. Spider-Man Unlimited showing up in Spider-Verse 2, so that could be a fun appearance. But come on, let's be real. We all know which one I want to see. I think that his suit power should be attracting like a dozen different women who are just obsessed with him and then ruining each relationship one by one. That's the real Spider-Man experience. Another suit that I want to see is just so iconic to the history of Spider-Man, and I would love to see it get represented, is the 2000 Scott Johnson design for the character. This guy was everywhere. This art was all over merchandise, billboards, theme parks. Anything that had Spider-Man that wasn't attached to a specific movie or TV show had this design. It's so ingrained in my brain, and like it's so nostalgic for me that whenever I see it, I have like a Ratatouille moment. And honestly, it's kind of the reason I'm making this video, because I saw a mod for it on PC and I kind of just had to talk about it. I would also really like a version that's unmasked. I know it doesn't make a ton of sense, and I know it wouldn't really work for cutscenes, but I think it'd just be fun to swing around as Peter Parker. You don't have to animate the face or anything, but just give us the option is all. Also, don't leave comments about how you're like, oh, I missed the old face. Move on. It's been years. Move on. One Spider-Man design that I really like that I don't think gets enough recognition is the design from Edge of Time. I really like the messy web patterns in that symbol, and I also really need to play Edge of Time because it looks really fun, and I like how it's Josh Keaton Spider-Man. But the one game design that definitely needs some representation is the 2000 Neversoft PS1 Spider-Man game. While not part of my childhood specifically, I know there are a ton of people who grew up with this game and with this version of Spider-Man that would love to see it get represented. I know that there might be some licensing issues with Neversoft because of company politics and stuff like that, so even just a low poly model that's inspired by this could do the trick. So long as his suit power is to pull out a skateboard and do a cool kickflip. I'm still mad that Spider-Man wasn't in the Tony Hawk remake. Again, I get it, company politics and IP and all that shit, but just like, I want to do a kickflip as Spider-Man. Is that so hard? Is that too much to ask for? I've been talking a lot about suits for Peter Parker when a huge focus of this game is going to be both Peter and Miles are going to be playable. Costumes for Miles are a little bit harder because he hasn't been around as long, and most of his adaptations don't really stray from the standard design, and his first game already had a huge majority of the pre-established looks for Miles, so likely Miles is going to have a lot more original designs to make up for that, which I think could be really fun. But still, there are some Miles suits that I would like to see, namely his new suit from Across the Spider-Verse. I don't think I like it as much as his first suit from the first movie, but it's still a really cool look. I think I just like Miles having webbing, but not like red webbing, because like the red webbing stands out a little, it's a little too harsh. And speaking of Spider-Verse, we still need a suit that has his jacket and his Jordans to recreate the leap of faith, and I think the shitty Halloween costume is a really fun look too. The comics have recently introduced a new look for Miles. Personally, I don't really know how I feel about it, but I know a lot of people like it, and I do like a lot of the elements of it, so yeah, that'd be cool to throw in there. The second game is also going to be focusing on the symbiote, and Miles is no stranger to having some alien goop on him. He got taken over by the Carnage symbiote in Donny Cates' Absolute Carnage event. In the Marvel Spider-Man animated series, not to be confused with the Marvel Spider-Man video game series, had an event called Maximum Venom, where Miles, along with a ton of other Marvel characters, became venomized, and this is a pretty neat design. Spider-Geddon also had Miles become Captain Universe, which is basically this cosmic force that takes over and gives someone godly cosmic powers. Peter also had this power for a bit, and the two have pretty similar designs, but it's a neat look that I like to see get featured for both of them. And speaking of Spider-Man that aren't Peter Parker, there's a whole Spider-Verse out there of different costumes and designs that they could pull from. The first game had suits like Spider-Man Noir, but also 2099 and Spider-Punk, characters that aren't even Peter Parker, and that opens up a whole new floodgate of possibilities. Speaking of 2099, I'd like to see a version of the suit that's black like it's described in the comics. I know the blue and red is a little bit more iconic and recognizable at this point, but I do think it'd be really cool to have both options just to please everybody. There's also Webman, who's basically the Spider-Man equivalent of the Superman villain Bizarro with a reversed blue and red color scheme. If they add different shaders in the game that recolored existing suits, that'd be a really fun one. I'd also like a version of Spider-Man Noir that has the coat. We can't let the Avengers game have that win. Ben Reilly is most famous for this design with the red suit and the hooded vest, but he actually had a more official design during his time as the mainline Spider-Man, and I think it was a big inspiration for the MCU's Iron Spider suit, except this one isn't horrifically ugly. If the MCU Iron Spider suit has a million haters, I'm one of them. If it has one hater, it's me. And if it has no haters, it means I'm dead. Marvel 1602 had a really fun design for Spider-Man, like this old-timey Shakespearean look that I don't think gets enough credit. There's also the aforementioned Superior Spider-Man. Although with the way that the first game ended, I could see them waiting to do this and adapting the story entirely sometime in the future with how they left off Otto in the first game. I don't know how they do it, but I would really want them to somehow do Spider-Ham in this game. Again, I don't know how. Maybe he could be piggybacking on you the whole time, or you could stretch him into a horrific monstrosity with human proportions. Anything to get Spider-Ham in this game, and I will be happy. Also, please, Insomniac, I'm begging you. This guy, Pete Spiderman. No hyphen, that's just his name. They just introduced him. He's my favorite ever, and I love him with all my heart, and I need it in this game. Please. Now, that was a lot of suits. That was a lot of listing things and showing, hey, look at this, which that's the content you all want, right? And obviously, not every single one of them can be featured in this game. I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I've got to say it. If Insomniac doesn't include any of these, that's fine. Oh, this is the worst game ever because I can't play as Pete Spiderman. No, what? No. Get out of here. But I think it just goes to show how much history a character like Spider-Man has and the different interpretations that people could connect with. And stuff like that would be a ton of fun to see in this upcoming game. But let me know down below what suits you want to see in Marvel Spider-Man 2. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Special thanks to Also the Sting, Already Done It, Cabbage Boy, Cassidy Bond, Chicken McDoofus, Cosmic Tragedy, Eating Kenna, Iron Ninja, Jonah, Corey's Not Fresh, Lime Spice XL, Logan Triplet Films, Simply Dan, Sully Hogs, Tim Neufeld, Troy Says By Razor is Gay, Tyler Goodrich, Josh Kapoor, Zachary Stonebreaker, Zero to Hero 148, and ZZ Toasty for being spectacular fanboys on my Patreon. This has been TroyBoy17 coming at you live. Be responsible, and I'll see you around.